Dogman makes a splash in the box office, major casting news for Scream 7, and a M3GAN 2.0 teaser set to Chappe. All this and more on this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Screen. My name is Ryan Gum. That's Jake Holtzclaw, and we will be your host today. Jake, how are you?
I'm great, man. Weekend cannot be shorter, man. It's a rough one.
It's like every time I get to the weekend, especially now, again, I am not unemployed. I actually make money. I got my first paycheck.
Nice job now.
I got my first paycheck this past week in my new job after almost a month of not making a paycheck, which hurt a lot. And now I'm like, man, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of a job.
Me with job, me without job. It's the same guy.
Yeah. It's like I got a job because I was sad, and now I'm sad because I have a job. Yeah, I'm more or less kidding because my job is actually really cool now. However, I did want to talk about, there has to be something, you didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you about how my weekend went because I'm dying. I told you a little bit about it right before we started recording.
Now I can say nobody asked.
Yeah, because nobody did, but I'm going to tell you because I used to host a bunch of sports talk shows, and I'm fiending when this past weekend, one of the biggest trades in NBA history happened, and it was shocking. So let me walk you through my weekend. I know this is not like film. This is not Beyond the Screen, but you're going to get a quick glimpse into my sports brain. It's Saturday night. I'm on a call with some of my buddies. It's really late. It's past midnight, which I'm an old man. So for me, I'm like dying to go to bed. And as I'm saying, hey guys, good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow night or whenever, blah, 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 blah. My phone buzzes and I look down, and it's from an accredited source that I usually get my sports news from. And it says, Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks is traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. And I had to read that like 5 times because I just could not comprehend what I was reading. Luka Doncic is one of the best scorers in this generation of basketball. He's 25 years old, coming off of a NBA Finals appearance. He didn't win the NBA Finals, but he was the best player on a team that just went to the NBA Finals. Was like, I think that they got swept, or maybe it was a gentleman's sweep of 5 games in the NBA Finals, but they were a couple games away from winning a championship with him as their best player. Yes, he got a little bit exposed. I digress. This is not a guy that gets dealt, because this is a dude, if you hold on to him, he will probably be your next 10 to 12 years of basketball. Like, you could be relevant for 10 to 12 years or more with him as your best player. Dealt for pennies on the dime. Anthony Davis is a great player, and they've got a decent roster. But I was shocked. I was like, me and my buddy, like ended up talking for another hour and a half because it just could not be real. We were looking through Twitter. Shams, who is the ESPN kind of guy who reports all this stuff, his name's Shams, constantly just refreshing Twitter or constantly refreshing Instagram, trying to get more information from him, because this dude at 12 a.m. just said, by the way, Luka Doncic is dealt, and then did not give any more context. So people just thought he was hacked.
Oh, man.
Well, dude, I'm not, dude, the entirety of NBA Twitter was like, oh, Shams got hacked. There's no way that happened. But it's real. This actually happened.
Yeah, you better believe it, man. I'm surprised you didn't know.
Yeah,
I knew from a mile away.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. He's like, man, you're just going to choose the opposite from me. And I was like, yeah, I don't know anything about sports. I'm just going to say, oh, man, Ryan, you're an idiot, dude. You let that go right above your head.
And dude, it's so, and this is what I explained to Jake beforehand, was that is just sports media now. It's just the opposite opinion regardless. See, and I said, there's no quicker way to piss me off than someone who just wants to prove a point, saying, actually, if you paid attention, Luka Doncic was injured and gained a lot of weight, and then they just didn't trust him to give him the Supermax. And it's just like, stop. No, bad. This is generational type talent. There's no quicker way to make me frustrated with anybody than to just a half-brained attempt to be actually pushing up their glasses as I genuinely push up my glasses. I know you guys can't see that. Anyway, we're going to get off sports. It's time for Beyond the Screen.
Anthony Davis was in Space Jam.
Space Jam 2.
Yeah, well.
Movie. Anyway, segment 1, your box office news. After almost 5 minutes of me yelling at you about how stupid the Dallas Mavericks are. Nico Harrison, terrible executive. Anyway, moving on. DreamWorks and Universal's Dog Man wins the box office, coming in first with an impressive $36 million earned over the weekend. The film stars Pete Davidson, Isla Fisher, Ricky Gervais, and so many more people. The film's synopsis is, quote, when a police officer and his faithful police dog get injured in the line of duty, a harebrained but life-saving surgery fuses the two of them together, and Dog Man is born. As Dog Man learns to embrace his new identity, he must stop feline supervision Petey the cat, who is Pete Davidson, from cloning himself and going on a crime spree. This is like a book with the same art style as like Captain Underpants, and the film is in the same style.
That's what I was thinking of, and then I actually did look it up, and it is a book. Yeah. But this was completely under my nose. I had no idea it was coming out. I maybe just be under a rock.
Well, I saw the trailers like the last 2 weeks, and I thought that the trailers were really unique. They were like charming, and that's apparently what everyone says about the movie, is that it's just charming. And a lot of people really like it, and it so much so that the film actually almost earned back its production value. This is before marketing, this is before anything else, but it just total cost was 40 million, and in 3 days it made 36. So this is gonna be a film that makes a lot of money. And for DreamWorks, this is also another huge mark for them, because this is the third movie in a row for them that they've released that has gone straight to #1 on the box office. So that comes after Kung Fu Panda, that comes after The Wild Robot, following up with Dog Man. All three of those films, the second they released from DreamWorks, they immediately hit #1 in the box office. The $36 million mark is also the second highest opening of all time for an animated feature in the month of January, which is a really niche fact, but I think it is important because starting the year, it's usually slow for the box office. This month is no different in particular. It's cruddy outside, it's cold, people don't really want to get out as much. You compare it to any other time of year, really. Even the holiday season, when, yes, it's cold, but people have their end of the year money. They're giving gifts out, go on and spend time with family. So January, February, even into March is like a tough time for film. So the fact that this movie is doing so well and DreamWorks is setting a precedent of constantly winning for them, I mean, it's a big deal. And so it's something to keep an eye on as DreamWorks continues to release film. Moving on down the line, New Line's feature Companion opens to $9.5 million and takes second place, earning a high of $4 million on Friday. Now, if you were listening, the #1 spot in the box office earned 36, and 2 earned 9.5. So there was a big drop off from one to the other. It was a sleepy weekend outside of Dog Man. The horror film that is Companion is tracking strong with critics and audiences alike, coming in with a B+ cinema score. The film stars Sophie Thatcher, Jack Quaid, Megan Surrey, and more, with a synopsis of, quote, a weekend getaway turns bloody and violent when a subservient android that's built for human companionship goes haywire. The film earned a cool $15 million internationally in 3 days, which reportedly already earns back its production cost of $10 million. Again, I had $10 on the script, but $10 million, which again, before production or before marketing, before anything, it earns back its entire value, which is a big deal for the first 2 spots in the box office. Moving down the line, Mufasa rounds out the top 3, coming in at a respectable $6.1 million for its 7th week in theaters, which that's a big note, is it's still earning top 3 marks. Yes, it's a slow weekend. Yes, it's slow in January, but to still earn over $6 million domestically in week 7 is huge for a film. Think about week 1 for Companion earning 9.5. That's a big deal. The film has grossed over $650 million worldwide and eyes $230 million mark domestically. Right on Mufasa's heels is Sony's One of Them Days. The Keke Palmer and SZA-led comedy earned another $6 million on the box office, right there fighting for that 3rd seed, but it does end up landing 4th in the box office. And then rounding out the top 5 is Mel Gibson's Flight Risk, falling from its pole position all the way to 5th in its 2nd week, earning $5.6 million at the box office. Other notes from this past week's box office numbers: Sonic 3 and Moana 2 officially and finally drop out of the top 5 after many weeks of each film being kind of, they're just kind of stuck in there for a while. No longer, finishing 6th and 7th respectively. Moana is now a billion-dollar film. So Jake, with all that's a lot of information. Who are our winners and losers this week?
Obviously Dog Man, and then Companion is kind of just riding in because everybody else is on the way out. Mufasa, I'd like to add, still behind Sonic domestically by about 800 million or 800,000. 800,000, not 800. I
was about to say 800 million. Whoa.
Yeah, so 800,000. So, but still top 3. You're dropped out of top 5. It's still likely. I'm still inching towards it's obviously better globally, but not better. I wouldn't say better globally. It's higher grossing globally. I'd probably watch Sonic 3 before I watched Mufasa. But
That
that's nor
international
here nor
market for
there.
them Disney movies are insane.
Yeah, I honestly, DreamWorks knows how to make a movie. I've been in seats maybe for all of the Kung Fu Panda movies.
Yeah. I
I just like them.
I mean,
I
so
don't know what it
remember
is.
remember how earlier I said that Dogman is the second highest opening of all time for a feature, an animated feature in January. Number one
Yeah.
is the third Kung Fu Panda. Not first, not second, the third Kung Fu Panda, which is also DreamWorks. So yeah, I mean I think if I had to pick a winner, DreamWorks is the winner, really. I think Dogman obviously being number one with 36 million. I mean, give Companion as much credit as you can. A $10 million movie coming in and earning back its production cost in week one. I mean, that is a success in itself. So yes, when you compare the two, they're uncomparable. Like it's kind of comedic how far down the money goes when you go from one to two. But the fact that this is a smaller budget movie from, I mean, New Line, when was the last time we heard something from New Line? New Line doesn't come out with films all that often. So good for them. I see a lot of I think Companion will continue on a kind of a stretch of 3 to 4 weeks of earning around 5 million a week, maybe a little less, which is more than enough to earn a lot in its theatrical run. Biggest loser for me, it's got to be Flight Risk. I mean, to go from whatever, I think it made 15.5 last week,
Yeah.
something to that effect, and it dropped by 10 million, dropping almost completely out of the top 5, barely beating two films that are in their like 6th, 7th, 8th week in the box office. That's terrible.
We've got I see Wolfman dropped in its third week to 14th.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, immediately just tanked, made its 20 million and tanked with 1 million this week. So Wolfman flopped. Sorry, Ryan. I know how much you wanted to watch it, but it does not seem to be a winner.
Man, I really thought they had more of a winning formula there. I mean, like for instance, Nosferatu finished 15th, just behind Wolfman, and Nosferatu's been in theaters for twice as long. So yeah, not a good look for Universal. And does Universal? What was the last good horror film Universal came out with? I could not tell you.
I don't watch horror movies. You're asking me to choose. Tell you what Universal's done. Universal horror movies.
Yeah, I mean, I
Lucky
don't.
we're at a computer.
Oh yeah, that is true. I am literally typing on a computer. Well, that's the thing is that like I just can't off the top of my head. Like the last time Universal was the distributor for Dogman, so technically they had a big win this week too. But it was a DreamWorks produced film.
I'm not Invisible Man. Or no, it was classic. Dang.
Barry, say I thought Invisible Man was that was definitely not Universal, the new one.
I don't know, man.
Well,
Maybe somebody else out there can tell us. Maybe
Yeah.
someone else is like, "Come on, you're missing this one obvious one."
aren't you guys supposed to be film like gurus? What are you doing? Yeah, just
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Sorry, dude. You ask me anything about the Kung Fu Panda movies, I'll tell you. But
Dog,
Universal horror movies?
if it's not Transformers, I don't know about it. No.
This guy only knows Transformers. I only know the animated stuff I watched growing up. Anything about the Incredibles, you can ask me. But you start talking about Lion King, I don't know.
And on that note, I think it's a great time to move on from segment 1. Thank you guys for sticking with us this far. Going into segment 2, coming up next, Matthew Lillard returns to the Scream franchise, and could James Bond pivot in style with its next adaptation? Find out after the break. Welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You made it to segment 2, which is our major news headlines or major topics to discuss. We'll hop right in. Matthew Lillard is set to return as Stu Macher in Scream 7, potentially. Revealed in a truly creepy video of Macher, again, potentially Macher, as nothing's been confirmed, writing in sloppy handwriting, quote, "My mom and dad are going to be so mad at me," with 2 exclamations. This announcement comes directly after the announced return of Scream 3 actor Scott Foley's return to the franchise. He was also a take on Ghostface, he was kind of the villain in Scream 3. Sorry if that was a bit of a spoiler. He played by, as I said, Scott Foley. His character's name is Roman Bridger, and his character as a film director was also Sidney Prescott's half-brother. So this is another character, if you know anything about these two, Roman Bridger and Stu Macher, they looked pretty dead at the end of each of their movies, 1 and 3. They did not look like they were getting up from anything. In fact, Stu Macher in particular had his head crushed, and he looked very not alive. So there have been rumors for a long time about Stu having a potential twin. There's other rumors about this maybe being a ghost of some sort. I think we've seen versions of Billy Loomis in the last few Screams, so like as a ghost or like as like a haunting type character, but he's not really a ghost. He's more of like a mental thing for our former head lead characters. Has Spyglass gotten desperate after the departure of original stars Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, or what's going on?
See here, if that question was meant for me, I don't know who else you'd be talking to.
Well, I would hope it was for you.
As I push up my glasses, yeah. I don't know anything about Scream. I have no idea I had no idea he got his head crushed. So I'm gonna go with possible alien.
The alternate third option.
Yeah, the hidden third option, or D, all of the above. It's a ghost alien twin. I don't really know. Yeah, if he got his head crushed, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know a lot about Scream. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
No, I kind of have like I do love the Scream franchise. The problem is that I think that this is kind of what I had asked. I think that this is a bit of a cash grab. There was a lot going on and riding with what Scream was after Scream 6. So Jake, and for everyone else who doesn't really know what happened, Scream 7 was originally, as I had said, going to contain stars Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. They were sisters. Melissa Barrera turned out to be Billy Loomis's his daughter. And so Billy Loomis being the other main villain in the original Scream, who was not Stu Macher, right? She essentially in Scream 6, spoiler again, sorry if you haven't seen it, it's been out for 2 years. Melissa Barrera's character has to deal with her genes, essentially. So she's being hunted by another Ghostface, another family of Ghostface, who are trying to keep Billy Loomis's and just the Ghostface genealogy and legend alive, as it happens with every Scream movie. And they try to essentially kill the true bloodline of the original character. They're trying to get Melissa Barrera to, I think if I remember correctly, they try to get her to join them and to give into her genes. And in part she does. She goes crazy and she stabs a bunch of people, but all of this Ghostface. So she kills a bunch of the people who are portraying the villains. And essentially at the end, she's like, I'm going to use this for good. I'm not going to, or well, I guess she gave it up, but she's like, if I ever have to do this, it's going to be for good. And I'm never going to give into this type of evil again. And that was the end of Scream 6. Between when Scream 6 ended and now, the whole production thing for Scream 7, Melissa Barrera got fired by Spyglass Media, which is the company that makes Scream, because of her comments about Palestine. If you remember correctly, I don't remember who the other actress was before this. I feel like, and I've had an opinion on this for a long time, she was fired as a gut-wrench reaction because right before that, another actress made a comment about Palestine that was really not so good. I'm not going to repeat it because it was very unfortunate, and it was very offensive to a lot of people. So directly after that, Hollywood's going angry because of this lady saying something at a protest. Immediately, Melissa Barrera, who has been very vocal but very respectful in her protest of everything going on overseas with Israel and Palestine, it's just kind of there, bad timing, and Spyglass fires her. They fire her. As soon as she's out, Jenna Ortega, who was playing, again, the younger half-sister of Melissa Barrera's character, two of the most pivotal like portrayals in this new franchise, the story that they have yet to complete, they're gone. So a lot of people were curious about what was going on. The story had to be completely rewritten, and they bring back Neve Campbell to portray Sidney Prescott, who was the original final girl in like the first 3 or 4 of the films. And it's kind of an unfortunate situation, because if you ask me, bringing back Scott Foley and Matthew Lillard seems like it's matching up with what's going on with Neve Campbell. And I feel like this is just a grab, because you got to think about it. Think about it this way. We lost everything we had. Fans were riding on this new story hard. People loved it. People were excited for Scream 7. Now we can't give it to them. What's the next best thing? Fan service. Let's give them everything that they had before. People will love when they, in the last ones you saw Dewey, Officer Dewey stick around. People loved seeing Dewey. I'm not going to say what happened to him, but watch it. It's a great film, Scream 6. I think that that's truly what happened. I hate to say it because like I do love Matthew Lillard. I think he's a treasure. I think he makes everything he's in better. I just don't know, because of the scenario at which he would return, I just don't know if there's any saving the story.
I mean, every Scooby-Doo was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. You lose where does the story go if you lose both actresses that you were trying to build your franchise off of?
I mean, Neve Campbell was in Scream 6. Sidney Prescott was like around. Her character was kind of important, but it just didn't, like, she was just a side character at that point. Like, she was there to bolster the story of this new generation. And it really felt like a torch was being passed. It didn't feel like this was like them trying to push Sidney Prescott anymore. It was like, okay, you bring in Neve Campbell to say, look, Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, this is your story now. Continue. And this was the second movie that the two had been in. Scream 5 and Scream 6 were now the only two the two stars had been in. So I don't know. It's unfortunate to see what was a perfect kind of passing the torch moment have to be reverted so hard. And to be honest, it's all Spyglass's fault, because if they hadn't had such a gut wrench, like just kind of knee jerk reaction, they wouldn't be in this mess. Now they've got to find a way to dig themselves out of a hole. That's what this feels like.
Yeah. So basically, all we got is Matthew Lillard to save the day, or his twin.
If they go the twin story arc, I'm gonna be it's just gonna be frustrating.
That's getting he's not young. He's not young anymore. I don't know if he's gonna be. I don't think he would be Ghostface. So you got to have somebody who can like run around, right?
I like the way, and it could be in reality, this is probably where it will go. And I hope this is where it goes, because this is the only way for me to justify this happening. In Scream 6, as I said, you saw Billy Loomis, who was the opposite main character besides Stu Macher. In Scream 6, you saw Bill Loomis. That character was a vision happening from Melissa Barrera. I think that happened in Scream 5 too. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. But like, this character was still around. He was still influencing things. However, he was just a vision. You know, he wasn't really there. If we do something similar with Matthew Lillard and Scott Foley, I can see this happening. It's just going to be weird. How do you justify that happening from Melissa Barrera? Her character, I think she had like a medical condition that was explaining why she was seeing the visions of her dead father that she never knew. What would lead Neve Campbell, who's never had these problems before, now all of a sudden having the same ailment? You know, like because they and I hate to say it like that, but that's how they painted it in the two Scream movies until Melissa Barrera's character overcame seeing and being pushed by her genes to kill. It was essentially an ailment. So I don't know. It just, again, the best way to have it happen is that they're just visions of some sort, maybe like flashbacks or maybe like bad dreams of these former Ghostface as Sidney Prescott tries to uncover yet another person donning the mask and cloak. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've beat this. Like, this is a dead horse at this point. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. This is like the Fast and Furious of horror. Yeah, the thing about this is, hear me out. This is going to be really a complicated definition of why that's not true. Scream is good.
I don't know.
Scream is good. Yeah, Scream.
I have to choose the opposite.
Scream. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, no, Scream is good. Whereas after about Fast 3, it should have stopped. You can justify Scream 1 through 6 thus far. This might be the first time I've been like, do you need it? Do you need another Scream? Anyway,
oh my God.
that's not to say all 6 are good. Scream 3, I think, was not great. Or maybe it was 4. I don't remember. But anywho, moving on. Sorry, go ahead.
Remember, guys. He doesn't even remember.
Dude, there are
this guy doesn't know what he's talking
there
about.
are 6 of them movies, man. There are 6 of them things. What you talking about?
I know every single one of the Fast and Furious movies.
I'm
Ask me
sure.
any. I'm kidding. I just this episode is just me trying to piss Ryan off.
Yeah. Film 5 of the Fast and Furious at minute 45. Who's speaking and what's the line? Go.
Probably The Rock.
Anyway, finally, we're moving on. The next James Bond could return to its pre-Craig campy form with its next installment, and Screen Rant emphasizes that they should not do this. In an opinion article by Craig Elvey of Screen Rant, the writer paints a picture of a time where Amazon MGM pivots from the established post-2000 era of James Bond, in which Daniel Craig plays a more serious version of the British spy. With the next steps for the franchise being so in the dark, many are speculating that the studio could return to form with a Sean Connery-type campy version of the films. As Elvey describes, this would be a huge mistake, arguing that there was a reason for the switch in tone, and that the success of the Craig Bond should be an indicator of what audiences want to see. While we normally don't discuss opinions in non-news pieces, we have discussed the potential for the new generation of James Bond, specifically with the arguments between Barbara Broccoli, who is the lead creative force behind James Bond, and the new production company in Amazon after they bought MGM Studios. Does this, Jake, are we seeing a change of pace with James Bond? What do you think's going on?
Always loved like Goldfinger and what was it? What was the one with the Fort Knox? Was that also Goldfinger? Shit, I might. Yeah, I think.
Bro, are you even a real
Anyway,
James Bond fan, bro?
I loved Sean Connery and those campy versions of James Bond to begin with. I never really watched the last two Daniel Craig's. I think I only watched the one. So I don't disagree that this is kind of odd to go back to what it was, but I'm not totally against it because that's what I prefer the Bonds to be. Now, I liked what they said in this article talking about how back in the day you could get away with saying some stuff,
Yeah.
and being a womanizer was generally not frowned upon. Nowadays, you cannot do that, and you shouldn't do that. So that part of Bond can't necessarily be the same, but depends on the actor, depends on the writer. It obviously comes down to all kinds of different variables, and something that Screen Rant had said in the article as well. Um, that Bond should go somewhat lighter but retain its edge. And I couldn't help but think of like the Marvel movies after Endgame and how they try too hard to be funny but also are serious but not, and it just screws everything up. Thor Love and Thunder, main example for me. I did not like that movie. Um and then there was a quote from the Screen Rant article that I did like. It says, "The eternal problem with nostalgia is that the joy is always in the remembering, not the recreating." And so there's like both double-edged sword there. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do with it. You either keep it the same or try something new. Just for the love of God, tell a new story and do it the way you know you think best.
Yeah, the thing is that I think Daniel Craig's era has forever altered the course for this franchise. I vehemently disagree with anything going back to what it was pre 2000, or I guess pre Daniel Craig, I should say. I think there is an audience there for the campy style. I think that and rightfully so. I mean, they're good movies. They're funny. They still kind of keep their espionage feel. The twists are still fine. I'm going to leave out all of the time sensitive things because, what you could get away with in 1950 and 60 is a lot different than today. So just barring those things, yes, there's still an audience there. However, like, how can you justify going from Daniel Craig? I did watch every one of the Daniel Craig Bonds, and I love every one of them. I think that there's not a bad one. I don't care about if Quantum of Solace is the most disliked. I think that there's a reason it's edited the way it is, and people can be mad about it. I digress. We're going to move on. I love every one of these films, and I love the way it ended. I feel like there's a reason people were so into these films. There's a reason that the pivot happened. why do you think they left the campy? Why do you think every one of the James Bonds with Daniel Craig were so successful? So
John Wick.
John Wick. Actually, this was before John Wick, and there were multiple films before John Wick, with Daniel Craig that were just as successful. And so I don't know. I agree with your, like, maybe they could go a little bit more lighthearted, but I agree with your take on the post like Endgame Marvel. I just think people are so tuckered out of that feel. I don't know. The way Daniel Craig's Bond ended was just so perfect. I just feel like to be honest, it'd be kind of a disgrace to then just say, okay, yeah, this character with this actor, this world-class talent, yeah, it was so perfect. People loved it. He died. It was so upsetting. But now look at his replacement. Look how silly he is. He's just a quirky guy. Look at how goofy he is. I can't describe how wrong that feels to me. And like, I don't know. I think that there's an interesting scenario here where I've seen this theory that when a person is named 007, they're not just given the number, and this is how the canon can remain the same, right? So all the way back, Sean Connery through Daniel Craig, this is how they all can connect, is that when you get into MI6 and you become the top agent that is 007, you inherit their name for privacy reasons. So it's like you kind of give up your former identity, your birth name, and you take the James Bond name so that you could be as espionage and spy as you possibly can. And that's why these people only know them as James Bond. That's why there's so many of them. That's why you see, what was her name? The lady that is in every single one of them. I'm blanking on her name now. But it's the same actress who's like the head of MI6, every single one, until this last couple of movies. Actually, we'll look that up really quick. But the point is that like there's a way to keep the continuity going. And if you pivot super hard, I feel like every film has led to this point. This is where you lean into the theories. This is where you have fun and be very creative with your storytelling. You confirm a few things for the audience, but you cannot go back. Because as you said, the fun in nostalgia is the remembering. If you recreate it, it loses its feel. It loses its appeal. It loses its gold. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that this isn't something that happens. I really want to see something new from James Bond, but not necessarily campy. And the thing is,
Jamie Bond, make it a woman.
Jamie. In fact, well, what's funny about that is you say that there was a scenario in MGM where that was fought for as a series. Judi Dench is the name of M. I could not think of her name. Judi Dench is in like every 007. I could not think of her name. I finally found her. Anyway, there was a scenario where you saw that happen. A Jamie Bond type, like a female 007 or just a female.
I just came up with that name.
No.
I think there's actually a name for.
I don't remember.
Right?
Yeah, there is a name for her, and I can't think of it. But like, there was a scenario, and Barbara Broccoli vehemently denied it. She would not let it happen, and she's the final creative force, so no one could go anywhere. And I tend to agree, but I don't know. I don't want to see James Bond fall back into old habits. What do you think, Jake?
I don't know. I think if you do it right, you can. I think it's just. I'm not sure what the definition of campy is, but I think it was like funny. I'm going to fly planes over Fort Knox, gas everybody, and put them to sleep so I can go rob it. It's just like plans like that from Bond villains that make me, the nostalgia is there. But yeah, it's always better to remember.
Yeah, but man, when you say campy, I think of like Leslie Nielsen and like Naked Gun. You know, like I just, the thing is, back in the day, yeah, Naked Gun took that trope to the extreme, but old James Bond was not that far off from that when you really think about it. And I just, going back to that type of feel, just I feel like would be so disgraceful for the kind of the path paved for the franchise. Any more? Sorry, go ahead.
No, it really cannot be Thor: Love and Thunder. It cannot be the joking around while shooting people like that. It just can't be, man.
Like,
and I don't think they'd let it get there, but it is Amazon.
Who knows at this point? I think this is a good jumping off point to head into our final segment. It's coming up, your quick hits in segment 3. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You've made it to segment 3, your quick hits. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. As always, I know it's kind of a thing now where I just kind of thank you all for being here. But really, if you've made it this far, you're about 35 minutes in. On a usual episode basis, we're probably closer to 40, 45. We're a little bit ahead of schedule on this episode. But we can't appreciate you enough for just being this far, for taking the time to listen to us, whether the episode's an hour, whether it's half an hour, however the case may be. We're really appreciative of you. If you have the time, leave a like, leave a comment, follow, subscribe, whatever the thing is, share. Just let people know that we're doing this and leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Again, as always, it would be amazing to interact. It'd be amazing to hear what you think, to disagree, to agree, give us prompts. We'll definitely have conversation about that. But in any case, we're going to go ahead and move on to segment 3. We've got a lot of news to talk about here, starting with Ryan Coogler's Sinner. Sinners has released a trailer, its first official trailer, in which we see like a Western, like a Southern style, not Western, sorry, Southern style horror film with vampires and other various monsters within this universe. And it's Michael B. Jordan and so on and so forth. The film is set to release April 18th of 2025. Not much more on that one, so we'll go ahead and move on. Terrifier 4 has confirmed to be in the works, with Damien Leone set to return. This film is set to finally reveal Art's origins as one of the most recognizable slasher figures of this generation. And we get our first look at Daniel Craig and Josh O'Connor in the next Knives Out film, Wake Up Dead Man. We see a couple of still images in which we see they're maybe in a church. We see stained glass windows behind them. We see Daniel Craig as his detective Benoit Blanc with long, sort of unkempt hair, looking past the camera and over his shoulder at a sort of attention. Jake, of these major news headlines, what kind of catches your eye? What you think? Hit me with what's going through your head.
So Terrifier will give us some more memes because he's kind of goofy clown killer kind of deal. I remember like the smiling one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? The smiling meme. So, but I think the Knives Out, it's now what is it? This is the prequel, not the sequel, the prequel. I think they're going to take another stab at it because the Glass Onion did not do as well as they had hoped it would. It did not reach the same. Am I right on that?
It tried too hard. I don't think critics liked it as much. I think it was successful. It just people were like, it wasn't as good as the first because it tried too hard.
Yeah. So maybe they're going to try a third stab at it and hopefully try to redeem themselves. I look forward to that. I will probably be watching. I assume it's a whole new cast besides Daniel Craig. Do we know that yet?
As I said in the thing, it's Josh O'Connor is he's the other guy. He's standing behind Benoit Blanc in the image, and he's kind of looking in the same direction. It's almost like they're talking to somebody or something has their attention. I don't know off the top of my head who the other cast members are of Wake Up Dead Man, but that's something we can easily come up with an answer for. So the cast of Wake Up...
hear him typing away.
Yeah, the cast of Wake Up Dead Man as of this moment is Daniel Craig, Kaylee Spaney, Andrew Scott, Jeremy Renner, Mila Kunis, Glenn Close, Josh Brolin, Kerry Washington, Thomas Hayden Church, Josh O'Connor, and Daryl McCormick. So some big names in there.
Yeah, some pretty, like Renner and Kunis and Brolin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is going to be another stacked one.
And
so,
Ryan Johnson returns.
Yeah. So
I hope this is return to form for Knives Out. I did not think Glass Onion was that bad, but I definitely agreed with it. It just wasn't as good as the first. Of all of the things that I'm kind of looking at, just going down this list of the first 3 we kind of talked about. Sinners, the more I look at Sinners, the more I'm interested in it. I hadn't heard of it until after, what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago? But it's getting a lot of press right now, and it looks like it's gonna be a fun ride. About Terrifier, I have outright refused to watch them. I love horror movies, but I don't know if I agree with gore for gore's sake. There's a term called gore porn, where it's like you watch a movie, like a slasher movie, strictly for like the human element of getting cut and like dying, and I just don't necessarily find that attractive in my movie going endeavors. That's just my personal take. It's not like I'm not judging people for it, but I'm not a big gore porn fan. It's just not kind of who I am. It's not what I like. So Terrifier.
That's not why you go, man.
No,
I thought, like Nosferatu, like eating people was your go-to.
Yeah, man, him slurping. Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what I was wanting. No, I just
I think about that sometimes, and I I can't
messes
believe I watched that movie.
messes you up, doesn't it?
Yeah, dude, I don't like it. I still think about it. I'm like, it just gives me the way he was slurping.
It's gross.
Yeah, so maybe Terrifier is still not for me. Not that any horror movies for me, but Terrifier definitely not for
I
me.
know they're not terrible. Like I know that like the stories like it gets better as they go. I know that there's like a lot more lore that gets dropped, and when the lore gets dropped, it's good. And I know that the guy who plays, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. The guy who plays Terrifier, he does amazing. Like that's the one general consensus. You'll get people who like, we're here, we've always talked about film for film's sake for fun. And so that's kind of what this is for those who enjoy that kind of thing. Again, I'm not judging it. It's just not my take. It's not my style. Like I'm not a big fan of that genre. I love horror, but I love psychological. I love thriller. I love like the scary. I don't necessarily like arm cut off, guts pulled out, like it's not, like that's just not me. And the thing is, one way that I could enjoy them, and that like I might end up making myself sit down through all what will be four of them, is strictly for the practice of it. Because when you think about it, none of them have had like, I think this last one had a pretty decent budget, but the first two especially had low budgets, and the effects they were able to pull off for a low budget, essentially B film to start, that's kind of grown into this like generational style of like, people will talk about Terrifier like our generation talked about like Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees. And so, that takes a lot of talent from an actor standpoint and from a creative standpoint from David Leone to make that happen. So I can give them credit there. But, I'm interested to hear about how, because again, I probably won't be watching it, but I'll be interested to hear how Art kind of became this demon and kind of his story, because he is in fact a demon. He just won't die. But yeah, so moving down the list here, M3GAN 2.0 had its first teaser release with its film set to hit theaters in June 27th of this year. Debuting during the Grammys, audiences witnessed the return of the sentient AI doll as it danced to Chappe, and forgive me, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this. This is a tongue twister. Phenomenon. Original film synopsis. I hit it right off the jump. Look at me. I sat when I was writing the script. I sat going feminine, trying to be like, how do I pronounce this name? But anyway,
He had the phonetic alphabet. He had all the alphabets trying to help
studying
him out. Backwards E's.
Studying it like old biblical text, trying to figure out how to. I'm out here trying to read like Gaelic. I had no idea how to.
Yeah, you're trying to tap into your inner chick, man.
Yeah. So for those who don't remember M3GAN, the original film synopsis is, quote, M3GAN is a marvel of artificial intelligence, a lifelike doll that's programmed to be a child's greatest companion and a parent's greatest ally. Designed by Gemma, or Gemma, I can't remember how they pronounce her name. I think it's Gemma. A brilliant robotanist, M3GAN can listen, watch, and learn as it plays the role of friend and teacher, playmate, and protector. When Gemma becomes the unexpected caretaker of her 8-year-old niece, she decides to give the girl an M3GAN prototype, a decision that leads to unimaginable consequences. Can M3GAN capture the same level of success as the original? Because if you remember, Jake, I know you're cultured in meme, just online everything. If you remember, M3GAN was a big hit in social media space. People love this thing. The memes ran rampant. People loved it. Can the sequel accomplish the same as the original?
I think so. I mean, no sequel really trumps its predecessor, but I don't see why M3GAN 2 can't. I mean, they're already doing great stuff with their marketing with Chapel Roan and doing that. I look forward to seeing what else they come out with, because you can't just leave it at that. I mean, it's kind of you gotta have another teaser come out right before June, doing something else. So I think they're already off to a great step with their marketing. People will be in seats to see this sequel.
So for me, M3GAN, if you ever find my social medias, which random stranger, go ahead and look it up. I'm public, I guess, whatever. You'll notice that my last 3 posts, which are almost 3 years old, are all film reviews, and one of them was M3GAN. And I enjoyed M3GAN. I saw it when it was new. I need to get back to doing those types of film reviews because those are fun. But if you look, my M3GAN review is like 2.5 out of 5 stars. And my
I remember that.
yeah, M3GAN as a concept is really fun. I think she as a villain is scary because like she's so smart and she's an AI. It's what is more scary than like a possessed little girl? You know, like you see like these children doing things they're not supposed to do. Like it's freaky. It's a freaky sight. And with M3GAN, it's all of the same. But on top of it, like it was a fun ride because she's kind of silly. Like in her things, the gore was great. It was a very well done film. However, for me as a film connoisseur, as a straight up just elitist in film, the story was not to my standards. And I say it like that because the story really was like I felt like there could have been a lot more, and I say that jokingly because of I know how it sounds, but it just fell off a cliff. Like I felt like it built and built and built and built and built, and then the end. Like it didn't really. There was no resolution. There wasn't really anything other than the doll gets sentient. The doll wants the girl, the little girl. The doll doesn't like adults. Doll try to kill adult. End of movie. And
Well, that's why they're making a second one, dude. You gotta
dog,
give it
and
a
it was
little
the most
time.
predictable. Like I remember sitting in that theater being like, of course, there it is. I was waiting for this. Like, I don't know. I don't want to necessarily spoil it because it is a relatively new film still, even though it's 3 years later. But I don't know. It just I wasn't necessarily like impressed by it. I felt like it was an interesting watch. I think that the character of M3GAN is a fun watch. I think that as a concept, the villain is scary, but it was goofy and the story just kind of died. It was going fine and then it just stopped. So, that's kind of my thing on M3GAN. I think that it can. I think exactly what you said. Showing up at the Grammys, I never that's a great publicity stunt. Like good for them. I think that this is just the beginning, but who knows? Maybe we'll see another swath of memes hit the internet, and then it'll be a big deal again, like Nosferatu, and we'll see M3GAN 2.0 in theaters near us, and we'll review it.
Oh, yeah, and by the way, this is the guy who didn't necessarily care for the menu, and that was a great film. So
I
you
did
gotta
not
take
say I
his
didn't
take.
care for the menu.
You
I
gotta take his take with a grain of salt, guys. All right,
what did I give it? Hold on, I'll look it up right now. All right,
dude,
you
I
wanna
think you
try to
gave it like a.
discredit me?
He
I
didn't
gave
give it more than a 4. I can tell you that.
I gave it a
much.
3.5 out of 5. What do you mean?
Sounds
That's a
like
good
less
movie.
Than 4 to me.
That's a 3.5 out of 5 is a good movie. It just wasn't like
Yeah.
dude. I liked the menu. It was. I mean,
That's
it was
7 out of 10, dude. You gave it a
dog.
C.
Dog, nah, 7 out of 10 is above average. 6 is an average. You give me 7 out of 10. That's a good movie. It's not great. It's
Dude,
not.
You give me a 6 out of 10. I'm getting spanked when I get home.
Oh my
dude.
God.
I'm getting.
That's a 60%.
Dude, if I came home with a 60, I'm getting beat on, dude.
No, and that is so facts. That's very, very for real. But also, I mean, then I guess you're just getting beat because it's a 7 out of 10 movie. I don't know what to tell you. It's a.
Dude, I thought it was a little bit better than that. But
It was a good movie. It just, I just thought it was a 7 out of 10.
Well, segue into Opus. It's not doing so hot.
Yeah,
it's not released yet.
Last week we talked about the John Malkovich led A24 film Opus, which was essentially a strip and copy of the Menu's plot point, but with a movie. He's a singer instead of a professional chef, and it's the same thing. Cult/island people, and you're alone, and things go awry. Apparently, people hate it. Critics, anyway.
It's got a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes before it's even out, which
Dog.
doesn't necessarily mean audience score. So,
what would have happened to you if you come home with a 40%?
Dude, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't take the paper home.
Dude, yeah, they didn't even know I had a test that day.
Yeah. No, man. I don't know. Opus could be one of those things that grabs audience's attention, but I think you said it best last week. It just looks like a strip of a plot point they've already done before.
Just from the teaser, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. Moving on, Jake Gyllenhaal in negotiations to star in M. Night Shyamalan's next film, which will be in collaboration with the Notebook author Nicholas Sparks. The film is an original story from the two creators and reportedly will be a supernatural romantic thriller. Further plot details are being kept under wraps at this time. Jake, what are your thoughts on a M. Night Shyamalan and a Nicholas Sparks collaboration?
Supernatural romantic thriller just sounds like the way of water
Dude,
for me.
that's three
I'm just a
words they
little
just
worried
threw
it's gonna be
together. That's
weird.
not an actual genre. They just threw three words together and said people will get it.
Oh yeah, this is aliens, but like Jake Gyllenhaal or Gyllenhaal or whatever they say in Sweden. Yeah, aliens and Jake, but it's also a little scary. It's a genre. You know what genre I'm talking about.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, that genre.
I look forward to it. I like what Jake does. We'll see if he can pull this one off. By the way, I'm also literally him. So
Yeah, he's Ryan Gosling and Gyllenhaal.
yeah, yep.
No, I just Shyamalan and Sparks. Nicholas Sparks wrote The Notebook. I just want that to be a thing. People need to understand this is the guy who wrote the book The Notebook.
This is a guy who collectively made every woman in your life cry.
Right. And now he's teaming up
Yeah.
with M. Night Shyamalan of The Sixth Sense of what was Split. There you go. That's what I was thinking of. Like,
Old.
dog, how is this going to work? This just doesn't feel
The
like
Last Airbender.
Oh, God, we could have gone without that one. No, man, this just doesn't feel like a combination that'll work. This is like throwing together, when you open your cabinet and you're low on, like, it's the end of the month, you're waiting for the paycheck, you're low on groceries, and you're like, what if I made this? And you think it sounds good, and you put it in a pot, and you don't know what will come out. That's what this feels like. Like, M. Night Shyamalan, he kind of makes a good movie every 3 attempts with an accomplished author of romance, and Jake Gyllenhaal. You've got like these interesting pieces, but when you put them together, what are you gonna get?
It's you put them all in a hat and you draw the names out and you hope you get
pray.
Something that sticks.
You pray, yeah. Then that's that. I don't know. I just don't know if this is gonna work for my liking.
Time will tell.
And Jake, this last topic, it's an older bit of news, but I feel like this is the one you've been the most excited for all episode. We're talking.
It's something that I feel is so fun to do to Ryan because every time I find a fan cast and I tell him about it, he hates it.
Yet another thing I cannot stand. It's just bad fan castings. But so anyway, I'm gonna let Jake go because we're gonna have fun with this. I think this last bit of news, but just to get you guys on our wavelength here, Jeffrey Dean Morgan in August of last year was at a panel at a convention and was specifically asked if he wanted to play Arthur Morgan in a potential Red Dead Redemption 2 adaptation. The man very emphatically said yes. He talked about how his son loved it. He talked about how he would love to do that kind of project. He retracted very quickly, but he jokingly said he would do it for free. Jake, what do you think about, and I know this is old news, however, we talked about Red Dead on the pod not that long ago, and with this potentially maybe getting some steam in the near future, what do you think about what could potentially be?
Obviously, Kevin Bacon as Hosea.
No.
And I'm not lying. I just pulled this up. Keanu Reeves is Dutch.
No, see, this is the problem.
Fan castings is crazy, man. Hugh Jackman is Arthur.
This is such a niche audience that we're talking to because I realize there's probably a lot of people that don't realize what Red Dead Redemption 2 is. If you can imagine a gritty Western about a guy who has the biggest, and I know it's called Red Dead Redemption, so forgive me for the pun, the biggest redemption arc you've ever seen in your life. It would be a classic if it were a film. Like it's such a good story, and they're talking about making, who'd you say, Kevin Bacon as Hosea? Like,
this is just one fan cast I can find on like Reddit,
Please don't. What was they talk about Jack Black being Uncle, who is a notorious drunk.
Or Pearson, either one of the fatter guys in the band in the camp.
I just cannot imagine.
So, but yeah, to bring it back to Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he was prompted with a question that automatically put him as playing Arthur Morgan when I just don't see it in the things that he's typecasted himself at. I mean, like Negan for one, probably one of the best villains, and I call him a villain. He's somewhat of an anti-hero now. He's redeemed himself in the Walking Dead universe, but Negan was a force to be reckoned with, man. And those seasons that leading up to his reveal and the climax of that season, Negan was a bad dude, man. You didn't screw around with that guy unless you were wearing a cowboy hat, you know? So yeah, I just don't know if he's good for the redemption arc, because when I think about Arthur Morgan and in this video game, uh, he's got to go through that redemption, and there are some scenes that are just they're tear jerkers. They're you see this powerful man, and you've played as this powerful man up until that point, and you're seeing him just be defeated with an ailment, and eventually going through that redemption. And I'm not sure if Jeffrey Dean Morgan, not to discount his acting ability, I just when I look at him and see the scenes that he's done as Negan and the boys and other things, I don't see that. I don't see the ability to, and I'm sure he's got it. I just haven't seen it
So
to be
I want
soft like that.
to emphasize your
No?
point. I want to, when you talk about Arthur Morgan and his downfall with his illness, up to the point that he gets sick, which he was essentially contracted by someone in his gang to go and beat up a guy who wasn't paying his debts. And the guy spits blood in Arthur Morgan's face, and he contracts. Is it pneumonia? No, it's not pneumonia. What is it? He contracts. It's remember, this is like tuberculosis. That's it.
TB.
Remember, this is 1899 or something this is before germ theory. So bad news for to have anything of the sort happen. So up to that point, until Arthur starts getting sick and getting weaker, he's almost superhuman. Like Arthur Morgan in this game and throughout the story is insanely strong. He's insanely driven. He's a complicated character with his negative past, but he's a good person. And so to watch his downfall, you need a very specific actor, which I think points exactly what you're saying about Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Can he portray that?
And I just don't think so. So also the superhuman strength. I mean, it's 1899, and I think he's like 6'4", which is massive for 1899.
Yeah.
You got to remember, like, people are rarely taller than 5'8" back then. I don't know what the average was. 1899. We're going with whatever 72.5 inches is.
We're American, brother.
Hold on, I got it for you. Oh, 6. I didn't know that. Okay, never mind. 6 foot was the
Hey,
average.
5'8's not that short. All right, let's get that. Let's get that out of the way.
To be fair, average man during the Civil War in the 1800s was 5'6" or 5'7".
Wow,
so
that was
generally.
That 30-year stretch was a big jump.
Yeah, so generally, like 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", like he is half a foot or close to a foot taller than everybody else, and that's why he's perceived as such a force to be reckoned with while you're playing the game. And just to see him crumble, there's one scene where he's at a train stop, and Ryan's got another example, but he's talking to a sister from the church, um, and he just breaks down. He's TB'd up, he is in the full coughing fit, and he just tells the sister like that he's afraid. Um, and you just see him kind of change. He becomes much more giving. And this is it's a somewhat turn-based game. So if you play the more honorable way, which I take to be canon, he becomes a much more giving and humble person who really just cares about his family and the gang, and wants them to live, and ultimately sacrifices himself for the greater good of his closer compatriots. But yeah, I just don't see it in Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Now, a lot of other people will fan cast his voice actor. Um, and I believe his name is Roger. Is that right?
Roger Clark. Yes.
Roger Clark. Yeah. So he already looks the part. And he's already kind of like that fun side that Arthur kind of has in the video game. But he's a voice actor, so he obviously has the range to do it all. It's just a matter of can he do it on camera? Which he's
Yeah.
already done it in mocap, but and then some fun ones that I think are really good casts are, I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Dutch would probably be an often better portrayal. And then Woody Harrelson as Micah. I just imagine Micah shooting up the town. Like that's such a Woody Harrelson thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then Norman Reedus as John is one that's kind of on the line that I was like, how much money are we talking about when we get to make this film? Because you really only get to have Dutch and Arthur, and that's, you got to start casting some cheaper people.
Yeah, I
You know what
just
I'm saying?
and the thing about Reedus, like I think he could portray the part, but really the only reason that he's even cast as John is because he's got raspy voice and long hair. Like
Yeah.
let's be real. Like it's not like the guy's acting chops. He's a good actor, but he plays the same character every time. It's not like his acting chops are like, oh man, he's such a good actor. He's got to play John. He just happens to portray characters that are like John Marston.
Right, and I see Jack Black being casted, like you said, an uncle or Pearson.
God, but I don't
And
want
Jack
that
Black
to
it
happen.
plays himself. Like it's just, I don't want. There's nobody in Red Dead Redemption 2 that acts like Jack Black besides maybe one of the NPC encounters where he's the armless veteran in Valentine. That's about it.
Yeah.
He's like, "Can I have a hug, friend?" That's basically what Jack Black would be able to play. I'm not saying he doesn't have range, but I really only
Does he
think
though?
about Jack Black as himself.
Does he have
Kung Fu
range though?
Panda.
Dog. That's just Jack Black, but as a panda. Don't even act like that.
But yeah, that's pretty much my 2 cents. Ryan, you can add on to anything if you want.
No, I mean, I really don't have a lot else to add. I want to say that if you're not going with Roger Clark, and I know that we kind of had a disagreement on this prior to the pod, I feel like Josh Brolin would be a good Arthur Morgan. I feel like he can. Now, you made a great point about, hey, in his filmography, does he have a role where he's played that softer side? I think he can. I don't necessarily like, I can't give you an example other than like, obviously, like the big one with Brolin is that, with Thanos. So it's like, in those movies, there were moments where he was somber and he was quiet. Like it's not like Thanos is like a super loud character. He's kind of very stoic in his ways, very set. And I feel like you could argue that is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from these really down, depressing human moments with this hardened criminal. I think you could do it. But I like you had said, I think you got to go Roger Clark because literally Roger Clark's face is the face that they used to design Arthur Morgan's design in the game. So like, I don't think you can go not Roger Clark if he's an option, and I'm sure he would. But if you don't go with Roger Clark, if you got the budget, which I'm sure if this was a film, it'd have like 250 million in its bank account to just throw at people.
Yeah, they'd be pulling out of the GTA Online fund.
Yeah,
If
right.
Rockstar was to make it.
Put in a little code and you get more. Yeah. I don't know. I think if you got that and Roger Clark doesn't want to do a live action film, just get Josh Brolin. But other than that, I think that you expertly painted like kind of the scenario of which a Red Dead film would become a real thing. I think that it will happen at some point simply because there's too much money in it. I think there's way too much money to be made in a Red Dead Redemption movie, specifically with the sequel game's storyline. Which is another important question that I asked you before the pod, and I'll ask you on the pod. If they decide to do that, the better story is Red Dead Redemption 2 by a long shot. Do they make a Red Dead Redemption movie and it just be the second storyline?
I mean, so obviously better story Red Dead Redemption 2 all day. I've played a little bit of Red Dead 1, and I think it's just because it's a little older that it's not taken so well by me. But I always could pose that you tell the story prior to Red Dead 2. So Red Dead 1 is technically the newest in terms of chronological. Then it's Red Dead 2. Um, and then you tell kind of how the gang started a few years back. I think you could do that. Anything after after chronologically in Red Dead 1 is about 1920, 30. You start talking about there's a world war in there. So you start running into some more civilization, and you start losing the cowboy, which is mainly what Red Dead is about. It is a western. So you could take both routes. Red Dead 2 I mean, shot for shot. You want to talk about moneymaker? You want to talk about butts in seats? Everybody liked Red Dead, man. But people have been begging for a GTA game, and there's a lot of commentary on you want to see these games? Just go watch a western. Go watch a crime movie. So there's always going to be that argument where it's like just enjoy the medium, play Red Dead Redemption, the video game. You don't need a movie to enjoy that piece of art.
I think there's a
And I
lot
think
of
that's where I'll
merit.
leave it.
There's a lot of merit to that.
Yeah. So I'll leave you with one more, maybe two more. I've
Oh,
got
God.
Steve Buscemi as Herr Strauss.
That is Steve Buscemi.
Buscemi. I didn't see an H in there,
Steve,
dude.
Steve Buscemi.
Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi.
So, Buscemi as that German guy who got Arthur sick. Damn it. And then we got Jared Leto as Kieran Duffy.
Oh, man.
He doesn't even want Jared Leto anywhere near.
No,
this film.
get that man away from this child. This is terrible.
Heck yeah. Jason Momoa, Charles Smith. I can go
all right,
on.
all right.
I
We're
can
going to
go
move
on.
on from these terrible castings. That's going to be the end of the show. We're going to move on into the end. That's a terrible, terrible way to end this. I'm
That's
sorry.
it. I'm ending the show.
Yeah, we're never coming back. No, just kidding.
Chris
please.
Hemsworth is Arthur Morgan.
No, please come back next week. Please come back next week. We'll see you guys. Thank you guys so much for being around for this long. See ya.